Hello everyone, it's Channin here for Honeybee Stamps. In today's video, we are going to watercolor these beautiful images from the Pine and Berry Centerpiece stamp set with Tombow Dual Brush Pens. This is actually my favorite way to watercolor. I find this a lot easier than traditional watercolors in pans, and I love how bright and intense the Tombow colors are. First, let me show you this beautiful stamp set. This is the Pine and Berry Centerpiece stamp set. I pulled off a lot of images from this set, and I'm going to stamp it onto Bristol paper. Bristol is a type of paper. This is made by Strathmore, and I'm using the smooth type. There's two kinds of Bristol, vellum or smooth, and I'm using smooth. I stamped them first in intense black ink from Honeybee Stamps, and now I'm going to dip or cover my images with clear embossing powder. This is just going to make sure that that ink is totally set and dry for when I start to watercolor. I don't have to worry at all about any of the ink bleeding or anything. So after I poured over the clear embossing powder, I'm just going to heat set all my images with my heat tool, and then we'll be ready to watercolor. You could, of course, use watercolor paper if you choose, but I do find that the ink from the Tombow Dual Brush Pens moves more smoothly over this Bristol paper, and again I'm using smooth paper instead of the vellum. So now that my images are heat set, I'm going to start here with this really dark gray and color some of the areas that I want to be very dark first, and then with a paintbrush with only a small amount of water, I'll go over that ink, activate that ink, and then kind of move it and glide it over to fill in some of the rest of the areas. And this just creates a really beautiful gradation and really starts to kind of create that illusion of depth to this really pretty little lantern. So now I'm working on the top here. I'm going to make the top of this a little bit darker and then have my gradation as it kind of goes over down the sides of this top. And again, just a little bit of water. That's all you need to activate that ink and get it moving. It's really surprising how little you actually need. So if you're first time trying this, just go slowly, try a small amount of water and really start to get comfortable and get a good feel for how this ink kind of moves with the water. And again, it just takes a small amount. And in fact, actually, I just have the water sprayed out onto my basically a laminated piece of paper, and that's what I'm just dipping my brush into, that small amount of water. And now I'm just continuing to kind of blend out where I've colored with the marker and smoothing out and refining here and there. I just have the top here. I do forget to do the bottom. I left it white, but eventually I'll come back and realize that I missed that and I'll color the bottom. But for now, I'm going to stop and not color the bottom just because I forgot. So there's our finished lantern for now. Now we're going to move on to the candles using a really kind of light tan. First coloring the sides of the candles. Basically want these to be basically white, maybe a little off-white. After I lay down that marker, again, I'll take my brush with just a small amount of water, go over the areas that I colored with the marker, soften them, and kind of blend them out once that ink is activated. Now I have a yellow for the flame. I kind of blended that out after I colored them, and then I grabbed a little bit of a dark orange just to kind of enhance that flame, and I didn't blend that orange out at all. I decided these candles were looking a little flat, so I grabbed an even darker tan, going back over the same areas that I colored before with that light tan, and then once I finish coloring them, I will again grab my paintbrush with a little bit of water and kind of blend out those areas that I colored with my marker. So it's super easy process. You can see how quick it comes together, and I love the way this watercolor looks. Now we're moving on to the ribbon. I have a couple reds picked out for that. Whenever I have two colors picked out for an area, I'll start with my lighter color first. So here I start with my lighter red, colored in the areas that I do want it to be a little bit darker, and then with my damp brush, I blended that lighter red out. Then I'll move to my darker red, which I will add basically the places I want to have the most contrast be the darkest, which is kind of right up there by the knot of the bow. Once I finish kind of blending out that darker red, we are done with that bow. Now we're going to move on to these kind of evergreen sprigs. I'm starting with a light green, which is kind of like an olivey green, coloring about halfway up those evergreen sprigs with that, and then finishing the rest with this darker olive, which is 177. Then I'll take my damp brush and just kind of blend out the transition between those two greens. And again, only a little bit of water, and that gets that darker green kind of activated and moving, and really easy to blend the two together. If I were to do these over again, I think I would die cut these sprigs out first and then watercolor them, just because I didn't really quite know where the edge of the die cut was going to be, and I didn't get a nice consistent white border on these evergreen sprigs. Now moving on to the holly leaves, start with the light green, then a darker green at the base. Now I'm blending the two out, blending that transition between the dark and the light, and then all the way carrying that really kind of a bluish green all the way to the tips of the holly leaves. And I love that contrast between that bluer green and our warmer green. Now we are moving on to the berries, using the same reds that I used for the ribbon, keeping everything consistent. Started with that lighter red, colored them, blended it out, and then I'm going to grab my darker red here and just add a little shadow so these really have some dimension, so they look like they're round berries, and then soften that hard edge from the marker just a little bit with my damp brush. Now we're moving on to some more leaves. I'm using just that darker blue-green color for these leaves. No two combo here, just because they're so small. There's really no need to kind of overcomplicate these, because a lot of it will get lost. So start by applying that darker green at the base of the leaves, and then with a damp brush I'm just going to kind of blend it out, and that creates a beautiful gradation over the leaves. Really, really pretty. And again, I love this combination of this blue-green with that more warm green. Now we're going to move on to coloring the berries. Again, exactly how I colored the ribbon and the holly berries earlier. Just going to color them with that lighter red first. No blending here because they're so small, so no brush actually needed for this. And then I grabbed that darker red and just added a little shadow. And again, no blending for that because they're just so small. And now we're going to stamp our sentiment. So I've grabbed a sentiment from that pine and berry centerpiece stamp set, stamped it in Honeybee's clear embossing and watermark ink onto black cardstock, dipped the sentiment into gold embossing powder, and then heat set with my heat tool. I love how beautiful and scripty that sentiment is. And then for the background, we're going to use this pine stripes and polka dots holiday paper pad here that just came out in this release. I love the beautiful subtle backgrounds here. This is perfect for our card where the focal point is something you don't want to really detract from the focal point, because we spend a lot of time watercoloring these images. So I trimmed that panel down, glued it onto the front of an A2 top folding white card base, and now I'm going to arrange all my images from that pine and berry centerpiece set. I did die cut them out with the coordinating dies. Once I have all my images arranged, I'll grab a piece of press and seal, pick them all up, and then flip them over, because I'm going to pop these images up with some foam adhesive. Just love that little bit of dimension. It adds so much. So I've got these adhesive strips here, so I'm just going to start applying them to the back. This will hold the die cuts in place. For the most part, you might need a little tad bit of glue here and there to kind of get them lay a little bit more flat. But for the most part, I was able to kind of touch every die cut a little bit, so with a foam adhesive, so they're kind of glued in place. There we go. And I'll remove my press and seal. And then for the sentiment, I do want to pop it up with foam adhesive as well. I have this little black strip of foam adhesive that I think looks really great with a black sentiment, because it just kind of really clean and tidy. Just use that to stick that sentiment down on top of the lantern, and my card is complete. I'll hold it to the camera here so you can get a good look at all the details in this beautiful card. Love these images in this set. This was designed by my friend Kelly Taylor. She is so talented, and I just love how beautiful this set is. And there's several other images I didn't use that would I think will be beautiful all on their own or incorporated with the lantern as well. Hope you guys enjoyed today's card and video. If any questions about the products I use, please check out the links below in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.